So yeah, here it is. So today's class is about OOPS in PHP. So OOPS stands for Object Oriented Programming Structure, as anybody know. So I'm gonna elaborate, what exactly OOPS in PHP does. So why do we need OOPS? What's the difference between object oriented programming and procedural programming, and we'll see some important predefined functions or predefined, I say not functions, I say methods now onwards, because uh, functions in classes become methods, so they call them methods. So we'll be talking about few inbuilt methods which will be used in PHP OOPS, and that's it, we'll wrap up the course. So, and there are some advanced concepts in OOPS. I don't want to discuss those advanced concepts because as uh, you know you won't be using those advanced concepts. All you'll be using is how to define an object, how to create a new object, how to call a method from an object. So this all you'll be doing all your all the while. So again, it's like 80% and 20%. 80% of the time you'll be doing what I'm gonna teach in today's class, and the rest 20%, explore by yourself, learn by yourself. If at all you find problem in learning it, yeah, just come back to Tutoslive, post your question. Hey, this is where I do not understand enough. Then there'll be someone who can answer your query within 24 hours. Okay, so that is it. So, oops. So for a change, let's switch our screen to black, the color to blue. Okay, OOPS stand for Object Oriented Programming Structure. Okay, this is what OOPS stands for. So now why do we need this? Okay, the reason for this, even before learning this, you need to learn about functions. Okay, so why do we use functions in programming? So we use functions because functions are reusable. Okay, you can call a function anywhere from anywhere and just put that code over there. So that's the reason I call them reusable. So now we have seen about functions. We have written our own custom functions to print array elements, and we have written our own custom functions to print the content. So now this time, so why do we use functions? Functions are reusable. Functions uh, use less code. So when I say reusable, it again means use less code. Okay. Now that's okay. So functions are reusable and functions use less code. But there are some drawbacks in functions. The first and foremost drawback in a function is functions are always exposed. So for instance, if I have written a function and anybody call that function, anybody can call that function. So just they call the function. There are no restrictions on functions. And the second thing is a function. Suppose let's say there is an application. There is an application where I have to write two functions. Okay, one function has the same code as the first function, but few extra logic. Okay, so now what really happens here is, suppose then I can do it in two ways. The first way is write the entire function again using the first function's logic, copy it, paste it here, and write the extra logic. The other way is like, write it as a separate function, return some value over there, and pass that value to this function so that you can continue the processing from there. Okay, understood? The first scenario is, okay, write the entire function again, which beats the purpose, right? Because functions are all about reusable code, which beats the purpose. And the second thing I can do here is you know pass the information to first function get result and pass it to second so that it uses the logic to process. Okay, these are the two scenarios. Now here what the real problem, the first one is like ruled out because I don't want to write again the same code to use that extra logic. And the second way, what really happens here, when you're transferring your return value, your entire logic changes over there, so you have to tailor that function so that it uses this result. So again, which is not I don't have to do that too. So for that reason, for that same reason, I mean, not exactly that reason. So here comes our objects, let's say, not object oriented. So objects, what exactly are objects? Okay, objects are nothing but they are instantiations, or they represent classes. Okay, so that part, the functions part, just keep that in mind. I'll be coming back to that functions part. So objects, when you talk about objects, the first thing that comes to your mind is classes. Then when classes, the next thing is methods. So here these methods are nothing but again functions. Okay, functions. So simply to say, class is an entity, it's a body which has, okay, which has some properties, which has properties. So methods are properties of classes. To more to say it an example, let's say car is an entity. Okay, engine is a property. Okay, fuel is a property, speed is a property. So to say that in an example, so this is the best example anybody can give about classes. So classes are nothing but entities, they are whole bodies, whereas the methods inside are the properties. The properties are like, they are the assets of that particular entity. Okay, so when we say that methods are nothing but functions in a class, so why are we using them? So we have clearly seen that there are two drawbacks in functions. The first thing is they are not secure. The second thing is, we cannot really take the logic of one function and use it in other function. You can call a function inside a function, that's a different scenario again. But if I have to transform an entire entity, let's say tomorrow, this is car, right? This is car. Now I'll say SUV. So let's say SUV is a car too, but it has different properties, it has different attributes. So that means SUV is an entity which has the same properties as car, but slightly different or more properties, right? So when I had to do this in a function, let's say when I had to do this in procedural, so that's where when you use functions, it's called procedural programming. You see this WordPress is all about procedural programming. You see this Drupal is all about object oriented, and some factors are procedural, some modules are procedural, and some modules are object oriented in Drupal. You take Magento is completely object oriented. You take code igniter, it's a framework in PHP, it's completely object oriented. So you take core PHP, they say core PHP is all procedural framework. Okay, so cake PHP, and cake PHP is all about procedural programming. So procedural programming is that programming which uses functions in all aspects, whereas object oriented programming uses classes in all aspects of its coding. So now when I want to inherit, or when I want to take some properties of an existing entity and apply it in the current entity, okay, that can be done using functions, but it's a bit technically hard over there to achieve that kind of thing. But when you use classes, you can do it in in few lines of code. So that's the beauty of classes. So why classes? People always feel like, why should I use oops? You use oops because you need security. You need to mask your data. Nobody should see your data, or nobody should access your data. The second most important thing is, what if I need some properties of an entity which should be used in the current entity? That's where oops are again used. Everything else is same as functions. Okay, only for these two primary reasons people use oops. Alright, so I hope I'm clear on oops. So if I'm clear, then we can see what exactly is a class, the syntax of a class, what is method, what is constructor, and what are access modifiers. Yes, am I clear here? Great. So now let me just explain the other things. So here I'll talk about syntax of a class. Okay, so as I say class, so let me just change the color here. So the syntax is, oops, just killing me. So yeah, syntax is something like this: class, the class name. Okay, this is the syntax. So here you write all the properties. Okay, the properties can be variables or methods. So when I say methods, they are nothing but functions. Okay, so this is the syntax of a class. So now how do you use this class? Sorry. So you know how to use a function. So how to use a function? First, the first part of a function is declaring a function. The second part is calling a function. So it's the same is the case with classes, except that here you have to instantiate the class just like you instantiate an array. Let's say, how do you write an array? You say $variable equal to array. So this is how you declare an array. In the same way, dollar new object, I call it, equal to, new is a keyword, then write the class name. Okay, so now this means, okay, this is like this particular new object represents this class name. So using this object, I can access the values or access the properties of the class. Okay, we'll see it in an example. So this is it. So class name, that's a syntax. You write your properties. The properties are nothing but your variables or methods, and that's how you instantiate. That's how you instantiate the class. So new class name. Okay, so that's how you use it. And then this is the syntax of the class. So I'll be talking about the access modifier here. So access modifiers, so these are nothing but, these are very important. Okay, people ask you when you go for interviews. So access modifiers are nothing but, so we talked about the security of our data inside classes. So how do we manage that security? So for instance, let's say you have a bank transaction. Okay, so there are some things which are visible to the end user, and there are some things which are not visible to the end user. Like, say for instance, for you, if you are the user and you can see your bank account number, you can see your amount in your bank account. But let's say you are a different person, or you click on your friend's account, let's say, and all you can see is his account number, or maybe masked account number, and you won't even see the amount in his bank account. So there are some things which are covered or which are hidden, and there are some things which are visible. Okay, and sometimes you see this, you log in to see information. Let's say there are some instances wherein you have to log in to see some information. So in that case, it's like partially restricted, like you log in to see that information. Okay, like such, in classes, okay, every property has an access modifier. So the name itself says access. So how do you access your properties? Using an instantiated object, that is access modifier. So there are three access modifiers: public, private, and protected. Okay, public, private, protected. So the name says public for all. So when you declare a property as public, it's public. It can be accessed by any object. It can be accessed by any object. Okay, let's not talk about inheritance now. Okay, private. It's private. It is confined to the same class, to this class only. Okay, when I say to the same class, to this class only. And protected, it is confined to the same class and all classes which are inherited from this class. Okay, inherited. What is inheritance now? Yeah, I talk about inheritance. So what exactly is inheritance? So any idea what is inheritance? Give me any meaning. Yes, you hear, Vishal? Inheritance. Okay, you're not here. Great. So I'm gonna type it here. No, I'm not asking are you clear or not. I'm asking that do you know anything about inheritance? So what exactly is inheritance? Give me a meaning, that's it. I'm not looking for an exact answer, but just give me what is inheritance. So what is public, private, and protected? Mm-hmm. Not to the base class. Inheritance is just like you have a father and you're the only son, so your father's properties or assets will be inherited to you, right? So you guys have a relationship, and uh, you know it's something like it's exactly like that, inheritance. So you get what your parent has. Okay, all the properties or all the assets of your parents will be transferred to you in inheritance. Just like that, if there's a parent class and if there's a child class, and if the child class is inheriting the parent class, okay, then the child class can use all the properties which are public or protected. Okay, I'm gonna type it here. I don't want to make things very complex by just talking. I'll just type it here. So inheritance, okay, inheritance, when a child class inherits a parent class, the child class can now use. So when I say child class, that means the object of the child class. Okay, a class cannot be, is useless unless until you have an object, okay, corresponding to that class name. So class names are dummy if they do not have an object. So that's one thing over there. Okay, can now use all the properties which are public and protected only. It cannot use the private properties. Okay, just remember this. People will ask you, like, what exactly is public, private and protected. Okay, so public is which can be used by anybody else or everyone. Private is it's only confined to the same class. You cannot use it in a child class, or you cannot use anywhere else, only within the class. You cannot even use outside the class too. As protected is something that you can use it in your child classes too, and you can find to the same class, but it's not public, it's protected. Okay, now this is how the data is secure, and we'll see how the data is secure using the access modifiers. Okay, this is all I will be talking about. And there is another concept in PHP called method sorry, uh, overloading. Oops. Okay, overloading. Okay, this is an advanced concept, and it's not properly done in PHP. So people will ask, like, does PHP support overloading? Yeah, it does support overloading, but not in the right way. Okay, that's the answer to be done. And there are two types of overloading, which is um, property overloading, so which is variables, and the other is method overloading. So I won't be teaching these concepts because they are more advanced concept, and you won't be using these concepts unless until you got like some 3 years of experience, or 2 to 3 years of experience. So and the reason why I said talked about experience, that even if I teach them now, you'll be understanding those concepts. So I'll keep them for aside, so whenever you feel like you're comfortable in oops, then come back and ask me what exactly is overloading. Okay, so that is it. And while writing a program, I'll be explaining you guys what a constructor is. So constructor. So constructor is a default method which is called whenever you instantiate an object. So people ask you again this, what exactly is a constructor? So default method which is used when a class instantiated. Okay, so the usage, coming to the usage now, when to use what to do. It all depends upon the wits of the developer who is using oops concept. For instance, let's talk about the access modifiers. So public, private and protected. So when you use public, you can use public when you have this data which can be which is not harmful. Let's say this data is readily available. Let's say search data is readily available, anybody can search and look that information. So make it public. Not private. Why private? Where do you use private? Use private for login applications. Okay, so since login applications should be secured, so nobody from outside should access them, nobody from outside should manipulate the data. Hence you use private for login applications. And protected, so when you use protected, like whenever you have some secure data, but this data should be passed on to the consecutive classes. So then protected data, I could not give a proper example over there, but this is it. Like protected, when you use protected, when you have secure data, but that data should not be used by all, but it can be used by the respective classes which it is inheriting. Okay, Then constructor. So as I said, it's the default method when to use constructor. So whenever you have something which needs to be called as soon as the data, as soon as the class is instantiated, you go for constructor. So write all that logic in the inside constructor so that that can be used as soon as the class has been instantiated. Okay, and inheritance, when to use inheritance. So as I said, like when you have big entities where you want to extend. So yeah, for inheritance the keyword is extends. So if you have to inherit a class, the keyword to be used is inherit extends. So how do you use it? It says, okay, class underscore name one extends class name. Okay, and here I write, say, public. Okay, this is how you write a constructor, underscore underscore construct. So that means this code is defaultly called. Okay, and I did not tell how to use properties. I'll be showing that in an example that will be really easy, so no problem in that. So this is the constructor, this is the extends, inheritance, and all the stuffs out there. So here it is. This is the syntax of the class, and these are access modifiers, and this is about inheritance, and this is about an advanced concept in PHP. So this ends oops. So all we are left with is with the examples. So I'm gonna discuss the examples and wrap up the class as soon as it can be. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen here. When I share my screen, I won't be in the class, so just please tell if somebody joins now. I don't think nobody joins now, but if somebody joins now, I just tell them that I'm just explaining these concepts. Okay, so just give me a minute break. So yeah, I'm back. So now I'm gonna share my screen so people do not find any problem. So if anybody joins out there, I just tell them what we're discussing. Okay, so I'm gonna upload this the code online. So as soon as the class is done, you will be finding the videos out there as well as the class files. Alright, so yeah, I'm gonna share my screen here, so just stay put. So I hope you guys can see my screen now. So I'm gonna write the code here. Okay, uh, the application we'll be talking about here is just a form. Let's see how do we use oops to build forms on the fly, on the go. Okay, so just dynamic form generation, I say. So you don't have to write the code every time. All you gotta do is like write the code once and it takes care of itself. Okay, so I'm gonna discuss about the topics which I have talked now. What is the construct, what is access modifier, what is that's it. We're not talking about overloading. Okay, so let's start here. PHP class, I'll call the class as form. Okay, so always remember that name your files with the names of classes. So here Tutoslive underscore PHP, and this is form.php. Okay, always name your files as class name. Okay, so that's it. So here public function underscore I can use, yeah, maybe, or let's use a small construct. Okay, that's a constructor. So let's see first here echo I am in constructor. Okay, this is just an example. So how do you instantiate a class? You instantiate a class like this. So dollar new form equal to, okay, all I gotta say is new form. Okay, I did nothing over there. Let's see what will be the output. So I'm gonna come back to class here. Yeah, great. So here localhost, okay, localhost Tutoslive underscore PHP. So form.php, let's see. You see that constructor is the default method which is being called as soon as I instantiate a class. Okay, that's constructor. So I'm gonna just do this. I'll say refresh again and see there's nothing over there. So constructor is used, to do some things automatically whenever you instantiate a class. Okay, now here since it's a form, what I'm gonna do is I'll say public. Okay, always remember use access modifier public function. So let's say for text input, or let's say for input, not text or any input, for input. So what are the types, what are the possible attributes for an input type? So I'll say return. Okay, the possible types are input type equal to text. It will have a name, let's say text name. It will be having a class if you want to style. So let's say the class is always form input for me, form input. Okay, and there will be a placeholder equal to placeholder. If you want you can give an ID. Okay, ID will always be the same as the name, for me at least. Okay, then yeah, that is it. So these are the things. So what I'll generally give as inputs are dollar type. Okay, then I'll give dollar name, then I'll give dollar class, then I'll give dollar placeholder, then I'll give dollar ID. Okay, so here goes dollar type, here goes dollar name, here goes dollar class, and here goes dollar placeholder, and here goes dollar ID. Okay, so even this is not the right way to send data. There's the right way to send the data, and which we'll be seeing in a while. Okay, how do you assign data, how do you get data? So there are different, it's called data encapsulation. Okay, data encapsulation is nobody sees the data at all. It will be masked every time, it will be covered by a wrapper or a layer every time. Okay, so now here what I say is echo dollar new form. This is how you call a property. So I say input. So what are the parameters? First type, I'll say text. The second is name. So for me the name is first name. The class is always form input, as I said, form input. Okay, and there's a placeholder. I'll say enter first name, and there's an ID. ID will always be the name. Okay, so let's see now. So I'll refresh. You see that it's a default form generation. So let me just give a title, because I always, so I'm not writing the doc type and all stuff. So this is Tutoslive form class. This is really important. You can use it anywhere. I mean, you just download it and use it anywhere. Okay, so let's do some styling to it. So I'll say style here, style. So the class is form input. So I'll say I'll give a padding. Oops, padding. Let's say some 5 pixel. Let's give a margin of 10 pixel. Okay, and what else we can give here? Padding, margin, maybe that's it. Let's see. Yeah, sounds fair. Let's give a width too. So width is 40%. Okay, sounds fair. And here, what I really do here is, since we have already instantiated this, okay, I'll make it inside a div, a container. Okay, inside a container, div class equal to form area. Okay, so here I'll end one div, and here I end the other div. Okay, so that is it. And here comes form method equal to, you can generate an entire form too. Let's see how we can generate an entire form using hooks. Like, all you just gave the method, okay, and the name, say test form, I'll say. Okay, and the ID will always be the same as name for me, test form. And the action, let's say, meanwhile the action will be the same file. Okay, and here ends the form. Alright, this is the form. Now what I do here is, I'll say last name, enter last name. Here last name. Let's see how it works. Okay, I'll just say it, last name, first name. Okay, that's the beauty of oops. Like, I did not write, I did not struggle to write a piece of code out there. It's all so easy that it's dynamic. Alright, so let's do one thing here. Container, container. So what I really do here is width, I'll say margin 0 auto. Okay, and I'll say width, which is somewhere around 60% maybe. Let's see. Yeah, that's working out good. And here I'll say display block, let's see, to show them in the next line. Okay, so that sounds fair. And here the form area, I'll say background very light white, and so EF, let's see, just a different shade. Okay, and padding 10 pixel, yeah, and width of 100% maybe, or so how much is the form element? 40%, right? So 50%, and let's say 90%. So yeah, that sounds perfect. Okay, so that's a form. So now let's generate all sorts of things over there using our no, or just form class. So here I'll copy again I'll paste here. So this time I'll say password, and form input, enter password, the ID will be password. So write this. Okay, so let's just check the source here. So everything is fantastic, right? It throws up a form which is properly designed and structured. Okay, so that's it. And now let's do one more thing here. So instead of public here, okay, let's generate a submit button here. So for submit button, what I do here is function, I'll say button. So however, the button has the same things, right? Button will have type equal to button, submit, reset, and it will have a name. Okay, it will have a class. It does not have a placeholder. Instead, it will have a value, right? All I gotta do is like just change the placeholder to value. Alright, so here I'll say return the same thing. I'll copy here, type name class, except this here I'll say value dollar value. That is it. So I'm gonna extend the class time here to so yeah, we have extended for 15 more minutes, so we have time. So all I have to do now is generate a button here. So I'll do it here. Okay, instead of input it will be button, type is submit, okay, and the name is submit, form input, or let's say form button or form submit button. Okay, here the value will be let's say submit itself, and the ID will be submit itself. Okay, let's try and see what kind of magic it does. So private, it says call to private method. Okay, it's not accepted. You cannot really do a private method over there. You cannot really call a private method like that. So how do you call a private method? So this is how you call a private method, using a public function or a public method. So I'll say here public function get method. Okay, so get method. So here I'll say return $this. So this means this particular class, okay, button. So you have to pass the values there. Alright, let's see. Oh, I have to change the class to get button. I'm sorry, this is button. So you see here submit. So let's write a class there. So the class is form submit. Okay, the first thing I always do is just remove the shadow out there, so which is border width. Oops. Border width is 0 pixel. I'll put a background. Let's put touch black. Okay, let's use a color, a complete white. Okay, and let's see. Oh, it's not black actually. Zero 1 1 maybe, yeah. And what I do here is on the padding to be 5 pixel. Okay, padding is 5 pixel, and let the width be some 80%. This sounds fair, and we now just need a margin. How much is the margin for input? Input 10 pixel. So that is it. This is how I have generated a form dynamically. Now wherever I go, I can include this file and just start generating forms. Okay, so this is how you use oops to rewrite some code. So now I can use this particular form anywhere. So all I gotta do is like just copy this piece of code and just include it everywhere I need to use a form, and I just copy this code. Okay, so let's see that. So I'll copy this piece of code, I'll paste it here. Okay, and I'll just rename the previous file over there. So htdocs. Okay, I'll rename this as form oops. Okay, whatever, form oops. Then here I'll come back here and I'll save this as form.php. Okay, so it says hey, I'm no more existing. So this is form.php. I'll open a new file. Oh, I have to write PHP tags here. This is exclusive form. Okay, what it does is get the button and stuff. So here what I'm supposed to do here is include that file, include form.php. Let's call this as login.php. Okay, instead login oops dot php. Okay, so here what I do here is I'll extend the form. So here I'll say class login extends form. Okay, I say class login extends form. So here what I do is I'll say just in it's a empty class. Let's say I don't know if it supports empty class, but I say login equal to new login. So let's try to call some static or public functions over there. So the public function is a button, right? So let's call a button here. So I'll say echo $login button. Okay, the first is submit. This time I'll just say button. Okay, then the next is name. I'll call it as just button. Then the next is the class. I'll say form button or form submit, let it be meanwhile. And then the value is login, let's say. And then the ID will always be the same as the name button. Let's see now. Let's go back here. Let's say localhost Tutoslive underscore PHP. Okay, login.php. So you see call to private method form. So is it a private method button? Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, it must be get button. So let's see here, I got it. So form submit, is it a class? Oh, we don't have styling over there, so let's include the styling here too. So link href equal to, or you just include the styling. Okay, so this is how you extend your classes. So here what I do is I'll just write a function called protected, or let's say inside the form itself I'll write a protected function. I'll say TextArea. Okay, so let's just defaultly call it TextArea. Okay, all we need is a name for TextArea and a placeholder. Let's say $name and sorry, a placeholder. Okay, so this will return text area, okay, with a name, $name, with a placeholder equal to $placeholder, then calls equal to 50, rows equal to 10, okay, then text area. Okay, so let's see here. So here I'll just say, even before this login, I'll copy, I'll paste, and that is text area, right? So text area, it has only two parameters, which is the name. So let the name be button, and I don't want any class for that. Let that be, and this is the placeholder, right? So I'll say, tell us about yourselves, and there's no other parameter. So let's see what does it do. It says call to protected method from context. So the problem here is dollar form equal to new form. Okay, I can say, let's say form here, and it's still the problem here. Let's do this. So okay, this is a public function get text area, return $this text area. Okay, so all I need to pass is $name comma $placeholder, and all I need to pass here is $name $placeholder. So this works out. This should. So this is get text area, and this is login. So you see here, tell us about yourself and login. Now let's do the same thing for, okay, let's do the same thing for the private. So protected has been come here, right? I could call the function text area, which is inside the form, inside the login. So let's do the same thing for this. So I'll copy. So I can't write the method again there, so that's the reason I have to cut paste. Okay, so now let's see what it does say. It says I cannot do it for the private methods. Private properties are confined to the same class only. You cannot inherit them, whereas protector, it can be inherited. So that's the only thing I want to show here. Okay, you know how to do the stuff. So this won't work here, but it does work here. Okay, so any questions, drop me out your questions after watching the video. You don't have to worry about it. Okay, yeah, so then there's only one concept left here. I'm gonna show you data encapsulation here. So let's see how to do it. So here there are some things which, let's say, which can be wrapped up. For instance, let's say what can be wrapped actually. Maybe the placeholders. Okay, maybe the placeholders. So you're not supposed to send the data directly like this. You're not supposed to do that. For that, you should encapsulate data. So how do you encapsulate data? There are two methods which are used for data encapsulation. They are public, okay, set name, let's say, okay, and here even before that you will say public $name. Okay, this is a property and this is a method. Here I'll say $this name equal to $name, let's say. Okay, and I'll say here one more method, public get name. So I have to use function. function set name, function get name, get name. So get name is nothing but return $this name. So never ever use directly, don't ever pass the values directly. So now you can do something like this. So here, not even passing these, okay, not even passing these. I'll say here $this name, $this placeholder. Okay, so you will be having two more methods here for the placeholder. Let's say set placeholder and get placeholder. Okay, that can be named, no problem, but this has to be changed. So here again, public $placeholder. Okay, so how do you pass the information now? You pass the information like this, just like this. It's pretty easy. Always follow this model. This is the best practice. So here $login. Okay, so set name. So first you have to send name. So the name is button. Okay, set name. Oh, instead of $this name, here I'll say $get name. This is get placeholder. Okay, so first I have to set the name and then I have to set the placeholder. Placeholder is tell me, or I'll say tell us, or no, please write something here. Okay, and I'll say you, something like that, and I don't have to give this again. So all I gotta do is like call that that here. That's it. Let's see if it works the same way as it used to be before. So I want to extend the class here again by another 15 minutes. We'll be done, don't worry. So here I'll come here, I'll refresh. You see it's working exactly like that, and you can just check that in the source. The source you see here, name is you, and this is the placeholder 5010. So that's how you are supposed to do things. That's how you are supposed to set name and get name, so that you wrap the data. Do not never ever use the data directly. Use set name, get name, set placeholder, get holder to wrap the data, and this is called data encapsulation. If tomorrow if somebody asks like what is data encapsulation, data encapsulation is nothing but wrapping the data inside methods. Okay, instead of exposing the data here, I'm not exposing the data, I'm not passing the data to the to my method over there. I'm just setting them and getting them using my methods. Okay, so let's do one thing here. Let's see how constructor works. Public underscore construct here. Okay, what I do here is $this. I'll set name as this is the default name. I'll say default. Okay, and I'll say set placeholder. I'll say this is default placeholder. Alright, this is it. Now what I do, I'll just no I've just done that. I commented out, and let's see. Underscore construct t variable online function. Did we miss function? Yes, I know I did miss function. So let me see now, this is the default placeholder. So this is how the constructor is used. Now when you fail to pass some values, it should take some default values. So that's where the constructor is used. Constructor is used when you fail to pass some data. Alright, so yeah, I'll make these files available. So please have a practice on oops whoops is very important, going forward. So thank you.